Hi guys, this is week 5 Project Life and I'm doing something super special this week. One of my gorgeous subscribers, Marianna, sent me this kit to work with. She put together, handpicked this kit for me and I just adore it. So that's what I'm going to use this week. It is filled with all sorts of goodies here, including some 4x6 and 3x4 cards. So that's what I'm starting off with, just picking out some cards from this gorgeous collection, which I have no idea what it is, but you can see all the pink and teal in here. It is just perfect for me. So I've chosen a couple of, I was going to say some of the plainer cards because there are some really beautiful florals in there as well. But my photos are a little bit kind of dull and black and white, sort of. Yeah, it was a pretty average week weather-wise, so the photo taking wasn't great. So I've just picked out some of the sort of brighter, more fun colours in some of the, I guess, more subtle patterns, just to add a little bit of brightness to this week. Now some of the die cuts that she's picked out, I've picked out a couple of those to use, but I also really love some of the doilies. And you know me, I'm not like a huge doily person, but I had this idea to use the 3 of those. I've got a couple of bigger ones and one of the little smaller ones. She had used a few of these doilies to create some toppers for the kit. I didn't show you opening all of this. I was just so keen to get in and use it that I pulled it all apart so that I could start filming. I was feeling like I was a little bit indecisive. I was just playing around with different things, mixing and matching. Decided I actually needed to get on with the making this week. So I started with one of these gold foiled stickers. It was a little bit large for my photo, so I just trimmed it down so it said inspire, and then I decided to use a couple of the tiny words that Marianna had used for her packaging. Just trim those down. One of them peeled off nicely. I think the other one, this one here, might have been glued down a little bit more. So I just trimmed it out of the packaging so that I could stick it down. It did look a little bit plain though, and so in the kit were these washi tape stickers. These were the hardest washi tape stickers I've ever had to try and peel off a pack, I will say. But I wanted to use this pink one here just to add a little bit of colour. So off camera I went and used some tweezers and a knife and tried to peel it off the sheet so that I could add this underneath the tiny word. So I'm just gonna re-stick that back down. I did trim it a little bit, but I like that it gives me a little bit of extra colour. Like I said, the photos this week are a bit sort of meh, and so I'm trying to add pops of colour wherever I can. Now these 2 4x6 photos I want to work on at the same time because I'm basically going to use the same recipe, which is to use these doilies and also my favourite Bishop Street Alphas from Kelly Stamps. I'm going to stamp directly onto the photo with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and then I'm kind of going to layer it a little bit sort of underneath the doily just so it's not like, it's not hidden, you can still read what it says, but it just gives it a little bit more sort of layering. And then I took that over to my sewing machine and just stitched through the top of the doily. I did add a little bit of adhesive underneath it, but just to make sure that that part that I cut off stays stuck down, I did just run that through the sewing machine. My sewing machine just happened to have some pink thread in it, and I really like that it gives it a little bit of extra colour as well. And then on top of the doily, I did just do my journaling with just a regular old gel pen, and I'm going to repeat the same thing down here on this photo of Mel. I didn't have a lot to say as far as journaling went, so I guess the more sort of journaling is part of the stamping here, so I'm going to stamp out nap time and then do the same thing, just sort of partially stick that doily down, and there's not going to be as much of it this time because I don't need a lot to actually write. It's really only going to be 1 sentence as far as journaling goes. This time I did sort of put the doily onto a corner, so I did trim it down on both sides, but I've only stitched along the bottom. It's going to make putting these into pockets a lot easier as well. Now I figured since I was on this whole doily stitching thing, I might as well carry on with my title card because I'm gonna do the same thing with this title card. It's a different type of doily, but I'm still gonna do that thing where I sort of stick it half off the bottom. I've trimmed it down. I'm gonna do my stamping first, and then I'll stitch it down. So there's these chipboard words in this kit, and the handy thing is they're self-adhesive, and I'm going to use the word hello in week 5, and so this time I've stamped week 5 underneath, stuck down my chipboard on top, and then I stitched along the bottom. I'm not going to use a label or anything, I'm just going to date stamp straight onto the bottom of that doily, but I did decide to go and grab another coloured ink rather than black, just for a little bit of difference because I've stamped the title in black there. So I've grabbed a Catherine Pooler one, and you can see me here cleaning off my roller stamp just by stamping onto the ink pad a few times onto some scrap paper. Gets rid of any residue of sort of black because that tends to be what I mostly stamp with my roller stamp with. Now I've got one little square photo in here, and I've put it onto a gold and white striped card, but again it's something I want to add a little bit of colour to, not a whole lot. I didn't want to change the card I'd picked, so I ended up using one of these larger die cut pieces, and I just trimmed the little piece off the top, and then I'm going to fussy cut around the edge, and it kind of gives me like a shaped label with a really bright pink outline, but again enough space to add a little bit of sort of word journaling. It's not really journaling, I'm going to use one of those washi tape stickers again just to add a sentiment onto here. I also decided to add a little bit more colour since that's what I was going for this week, so I'm going to map my photo just a little bit onto this teal pattern here. It really is only just a teeny little amount. This was a 4x6 card, which means I can still trim the other half down for a 3x4 later on, but it gives me that little bit of extra colour. I super loved these emoji stickers, little gold emoji stickers, but in the end I decided against it because it would be the only one on the spread, and I kind of wanted to keep things a little bit more consistent. So again, like I said, I've gone for this washi tape sticker. I tried to stick it on a few times. It was because it's all curly coming off the sheet. It was a little bit hard to try and get it centered, so in the end I peeled it back off and just stuck it onto a scrap piece of card that I had sitting there, which means I could trim it down, also trim it down a little bit thinner than it was, and I'm going to split it into 2 little sentences with 2 little pieces so I can stack it into the middle of this label, and that way it just seems a bit more centered. Now my other little 3x4 photo here, I picked out this heart, which I really did love the coloured side of it, but I felt like having the 2 diagonals, diagonal patterns right underneath each other was just a little bit awkward. And I had tried to rearrange those photos before, but I like having this particular photo on the left because I did have to convert it to black and white. And I don't want it sitting directly under another black and white photo. It's just a finicky little thing, but that's how I want it. So I decided to flip the heart over, and I'm going to use the white side of it instead of the printed side. And what I want to do is stamp the word walk in here, and again I'm using my same Bishop Street Alpha. I wanted to try and get this word as centered in this heart as I possibly could. So, as well as cleaning off my stamps with that same technique as before, stamping the word that I'm going to stamp onto a scrap piece of paper and trimming that down lets me see exactly where I need to stamp those letters. You'll know I don't do this sort of planning very often, and I'm very glad that I did do it this time. It really made all the difference. And I can add my tiny little piece of journaling underneath there, and I've got one more photo left to go. I'm going to use another one of these die cuts just to kind of mat my photo on one side. I know it seems finicky, but I was really careful about where I placed it because there's one tiny little word on this card of words that I wanted visible. So I bumped that right up against there and then popped my photo down on top. And I'm just trying to work out how I'm going to embellish this. I don't want to add too much to it. I don't need to add too much to it. I've actually already documented this photo in my Life Crafted album, so I don't need to add a bunch of journaling to here. I just want to make sure that it goes into my Project Life album as well. People ask me all the time about how I choose photos, and you can see that I'm not particularly particular about what I document where. I have no problem that this photo is going to be documented twice. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of washi, and I used an offcut of one of the other stickers, just bunched those up, and that is all done. I had so much fun working with this kit this week because I can tell that it has been personally picked for me, and that just makes it such a pleasure to use. So if you've ever thought about creating a kit and sending it to a friend, I would highly encourage it. It's the most thoughtful gift. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.